Hi, welcome to another episode of Family DynamiKs with a K with the Killmonds. Hi, it's Liz.
Hi, Liz. It's Katherine.
Hey, it's Ed.
And John.
So we've done a couple episodes and we realized our family tree can be convoluted and confusing.
Well, it's big, so yeah.
And you could do all those with a K actually too. I'm really leaning into this.
And like we've talked about almost all of the family members, but they haven't all been on. And for sure, it's not like super clear who, where, all, what. There's a lot of us, so.
Right. So
Who's who and who's attached to who and who branches off of who and yeah.
Right. So I think this episode, what we should do is kind of break down the family tree. And we can give a little background.
Well, not break it down. I mean,
build it up. No, I don't know. Oh my God.
Examine the family tree.
Yeah, explain it. So so a little more in depth, so that as you're listening to our podcast, you might be able to keep track who's who. Although we'll always try to.
This might just be our most popular episode, as people keep coming back to listen to it over the seasons and seasons that we plan on having.
Hold on.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely read some books where you'll go like, wait, who the hell are they referencing? And have to go way back and look. And we're trying to help you all avoid that. So all right. So we are a family of 8 siblings, 4 boys and 4 girls.
Let's start with mom and dad. So we've got Mom Mary and Dad Frank or Francis Xavier. So they're the top of the tree, right? Or the top. I guess.
Yes, in the sense of that
pyramid.
Pyramid.
They're
I
the
don't know.
Tree trunk.
What? No. When you think of they're the acorn. No, I don't know. When you think of a family tree, isn't it like, it's usually like,
it's about as far back as we're going to go. Here's the way we can break it down. Who basically is still alive that we're going to have on the podcast.
Oh, well
because we will reference our grandparents and people that have passed. Speaking of, our father has passed, so we'll speak of him often.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
Well, yeah.
And we've had our mother, Mary, on the podcast already, and she's going to be somewhat of a regular guest, because actually the idea for this podcast somewhat came about, which I'm sure a lot of you can relate to. We realized our mom was getting up in the years, and I almost wanted to record an oral history of her.
Yeah.
And then we realized, well, let's just sort of dive into everybody's history and cross, because that's the other thing with my mom, our mother. She will tell a story and one of us will recount it and realize we are getting very different versions of it.
Well, and there's lots of our growing up years where her story's from the kitchen. So she doesn't have the whole story. She wasn't there for part of the stuff that happened in the living room or outside or on the hill.
Or while she was out and we had a babysitter.
Like in our lives. Think of a time when Mom went up on the hill.
No, we need to ask her. I don't know. We have a hill behind our house that, as children, we explored it and went up on it often. In fact, Katherine filmed a scene of one of her short
my
sitcom.
College project. Yeah. I had the boys. It was 4 boys in the show, and they were up on the hill, like having a meeting or whatever. So we took a camera up there. It was ridiculous.
You learned later, multiple locations are not a great idea. An outdoor with multiple challenges of lighting.
And multiple
weirdly,
children.
Somehow you shot a bottle episode in that pilot.
I did. Oh, my God. Anyway, but the hill, yeah.
So our mother's has been on the podcast and will continue to be on the podcast, filling in these stories that we need information on, as where our father passed away in 1992.
92, yeah.
At the age of 58, which at the time it's like you don't have perspective how young that is.
Yeah.
But it is very young, because John, you were how old at the time?
I was still 8.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Because our parents, like we've discussed in a previous podcast, mortifyingly so. My mother was 40 when she had you, John.
Yeah, and they were close to 10 years apart.
Right.
Age.
So Dad was 58 when he passed away. So he's been gone for
almost 30 years. It'll be 30 years in April.
That is crazy.
Yeah, that is shockingly long. I was almost going to say 20, but I was wrong. So basically, our mother will be on, and our father will always be mentioned in multiple different ways and by family members. So that's where we'll start, although we'll reference probably grandparents at various different times.
I definitely want to bring up, and Mom will bring up for sure in her stories, her parents, which were, we called her Nana and Grampy. So her mom was Evelyn and her dad was Joseph. So
and they were real characters.
Joe.
Yeah.
Grandpa Joe. But we never really called him that. We mostly called him Grampy, right? I mean, I don't know. You guys weren't
I
really.
didn't call him anything.
Yeah. You weren't, because they passed away
Well, he did.
He did.
Nana,
she was around for a while.
Yeah, I got to visit Nana in Cape Cod.
Oh my gosh, she's in that little pilot that
Yeah.
I did too.
That's like
Nana
that's
had
one
a
of
little
the
cameo.
sweetest gems ever. Is that
I
there's
know.
oh dear.
Oh god.
Well, that's referencing sibling sabotage, and the entire family had to pitch in to do that project for you. So
with me.
yeah,
Well,
and
yes,
we
also
actually
for
are
me,
going to
but
have a couple cousins who have listened to episodes, and we're going to have them on as guests. So we share grandparents, so we will be discussing that.
Yeah, for sure.
Evelyn
And
and
then-
Joe.
Yeah, Evelyn and Joe. So that's mom's parents. East Coast, Boston, sort of Cape Cod area.
But they came
where
here
they-
to the West Coast.
Yeah, they did. They were. I don't know if they were both Boston and then came, I mean, obviously we'll get this from mom as part of the tell us your whole history before, we forget.
Before, oh gosh,
I know.
Before what?
I
God.
almost.
But
I
that is the
was
point.
going to say
All right,
something very
God.
dark and then stopped.
Yeah, stop.
And then you
Before time marches on.
before time marches on. Perfect. So yeah, we'll get the like real clear story from her. But they were both East Coast people, and then moved out here to the West Coast. So mom was basically raised out here on the West Coast, and then they went back when they retired. They went back when we were, I don't know, I think we were teenagers.
Yeah,
or something
exactly.
Like that. So then they ended up in Cape Cod at that point.
Mm-hmm. So then our parents met here on the West Coast because our father had moved here as well, following the entertainment industry or desire he had to be in the business. And so
So
then
dad also West Coast, Philadelphia though.
right.
And then his parents are Grammy, and I think we called him Pop Up. So Grammy.
Well, not pop up, but pop up, right? It's not a pop up restaurant.
Well, but it sounded more like Pop Up,
It's like
Pop Up. Yeah,
Pop-up.
now.
Pappy? No, I don't know why. I have only like the two vaguest memories of him because he definitely passed away.
Quite early. I mean, when we were young.
Yeah, when we were young. So and they lived back east, so we
So
didn't
that's-
spend a lot of time with them.
Right. So that's Katherine and Elmer. Although I think we've discussed that maybe Elmer was not his first name.
It wasn't.
he went by J. Elmer, and it was not actually J. Elmer. It was Elmer J.
Elmer J. Oh, interesting. Okay. So,
As this
believe
we're
that's
making
the
this
lore.
any less confusing for all of
okay.
you.
So anyway, so there are grandparents that are,
going to be referenced,
Yes.
but will not be making physical appearances.
We're deep into the roots
that
of, the
would be a
of the
miracle.
current Killmonds, and as we all know, roots are a little bit tangled. That's fine if
Okay.
the roots aren't super clear, but we haven't tangled any of the rest of the stuff.
So
yet.
starting at, current being able to be in the podcast studios with us will be our mom, Mary.
right.
Well, I think to add a little bit more, right? School teacher for a long time.
Mm, yep.
Yeah, sure.
And our mom. I don't know. That's
Oh, wait.
Good
no.
job.
No, because she has multiple degrees. We'll have to get into this because she also got her master's
We
and then was
discussed a
some
little bit.
sort of like pastoral counselor, right? Which if we ever get her to tell the story how that did not go well out of the gate, we will.
What, her counseling experiences? Because she had to do some like test counseling sessions or whatever.
You're looking at me like,
Well, are you talking about her social work, like probation stuff when they first got married?
No.
You're saying the pastoral thing. Wait, I don't. The whole pastoral counseling, I'm slightly unsure, but I just may not have heard about it. That's all.
Yeah, that was definitely her
it was
master's
my
or whatever.
first exposure to possible stalking. So mom did not set proper boundaries. So anyway, no, but we're not going to go back to, well, I do want to ask her about being
a probation
a
officer.
probation officer because I feel like that's
Well, that was her
kind
first
of
job.
intriguing.
Yeah, I love that. And we'll get more details of it. She finished college, and then I think they had like a 2-day honeymoon at the Bel Air Hotel because she was starting her new job.
Yeah, it was like
As
they had that weekend, whatever the weekend of their wedding, because there was also their dinner at Takes, Tiax, or Taix, a French restaurant.
Yeah,
in-
TAIX.
Yeah.
French restaurant, right?
Yeah.
Oh.
Exactly.
Her last name was Couture, by the way, before she, got married to our father Killmond. So the French blood was in there, Couture, right?
Yeah, I mean that's part of her history that he was half French, half Irish. Her mother was like,
I think she was mostly Irish.
I think she's almost full Irish or something. Or
With
sorry,
the-
full French. I thought.
With the last name Walsh?
No.
Great.
Nana is Irish. Yeah. Nana's Irish. That's why I got confused.
This is why we need Mom here.
We definitely do.
Because Walsh is
Sorry,
a very...
that was all terrible. Don't pay any attention to any of that business. We'll get Mom to clarify that whole, and hopefully she
This
knows.
is shockingly why we're constantly wrong about things.
Robbie Couture, our cousin, has done a bit of history on Guillaume Couture. But once again, we are not going back that far to try to help you listeners clarify who we're going to have in studio. So... grandparents, like I said, will not be making physical appearances, but they will be referenced.
And we're not going to get into their siblings to all of our cousins quite this moment.
Holy moly, no. And then our father, who passed away almost 30 years ago, Frank Francis, that we'll be referencing him quite often, but he will also not be in person.
Well, I don't think you have to clarify.
I'm just trying to really nail this down. So...
in classic form, a dynamic discussion of our family history has turned into just what? What's the purpose of the conversation?
I'm trying to now make it get us
More
back
clear.
on track.
Okay, back on track.
Now we're
We gotta
basically
get back on the tree.
So hold on. We've got the grandparents and we've got the parents. Now, kids. Let's just do
right.
the
So mom
8
and
kids.
dad have a 2-day honeymoon. Which probably did they get pregnant on that honeymoon with James? Because
Pretty close, because James is, I mean, he's a year in from them getting married. So
okay.
not exactly on the honeymoon.
So James is our oldest brother. You'll have listened to him. I think he'll have appeared on one podcast.
It'll be the episode right before this, I think.
Right. Okay. So James. So he's been married to Michelle for quite a long time and has 5 children who live up north outside San Francisco.
So James's kids are Marie, Katherine, Teresa, William, and John Paul. Yeah, they live. Some of the kids don't live there anymore. The kids they're
not kids anymore.
No, they're
Yikers.
mostly adults, and there's one for sure at home in high school, and then one in college, and the older 3 are
living adult lives.
Yeah, live an adult, which we absolutely plan to have them on at some point.
Maybe we'll pry stuff out of them because, we're the older aunts and uncles. So when we're like, hey, what's up? What's going on? It's like,
A lot of times you don't get a whole lot of detail.
So the pressure of a podcast will pull it out of them.
Maybe.
Well,
or maybe they'll be
definitely-
like, no thanks. I will not be doing that because I don't want to.
Listen, I was shocked that we got James on so early. That he was like, yeah, sure. I'll record a podcast.
He was so funny. He was like, well, maybe I'll be a regular occurrence. Like, okay. James.
So our oldest brother, James, who's married to Michelle, who has 5 children, 3 girls and 2 boys. That's
Right.
the oldest sibling. Then we have William.
Right. So then we have William, who has passed away.
He passed away 2 years, about a year and a half before our father.
Yeah.
About 2.5.
Okay. Oh, gosh, it was that much time? Okay, 2.5 years. Yeah.
It felt very close together. So so that's William, who was with us until he was almost 23. So there are some, younger kid stories for sure that involve him, and even some older stories of, when the older siblings were, because I hung out with him a lot.
Right.
And James, obviously.
He was the brother that went to the seminary,
Right.
left after 8th grade. So all of high school and college, he probably did not live in the house full time with us. He did not become a priest, and he actually passed away, which would be considered the night of Halloween, but had actually crossed over into November 1st in a car accident. He fell asleep behind the wheel. And we'll get more into that story probably on another podcast because it's pretty involved.
Yeah, we could talk about how we were all
Grief,
affected.
yep.
Yeah, we were all affected by first losing William and then losing Dad within, a 2.5 year, 3 year period. Pretty.
Yeah.
All I know is that he ended that last Halloween with like one of the most original pumpkin carvings I'd seen in my young life, and I've never been able to even get close to how cool that thing looked. Just in my mind, because my memory isn't as precise as I think it is. It is probably a lot better than it actually was. But man, that was such a cool carving on the way out. It was like,
well, because that was a sort of a family little tradition that my mom would do.
Yeah, she'd get a whole bunch of pumpkins, and then everybody who was home or wanted to would pick a pumpkin and carve it. So
And
Were they pumpkins or are they pumpkins?
what, am I saying it wrong?
Well, no, they were lists of puns, right? That's what you're saying?
Oh my God, are you going to be the
Pumpkins.
pronunciation
They were
police
a bit-
over there?
they
What
were-
else do I have to say?
they were a bit
Please, keep
squashy.
us on
John.
track.
Please keep us on track and chime in, John.
Well, and William was living at home at the time because he would,
Right, he had
finished college and was kind of he was changing his course. in
yeah,
his
he had
life,
decided he wanted to get into acting, so he was living at home.
Yeah, so he carved a pumpkin that honestly, I think there is a picture that exists of it, Ed, that is somewhat foretelling. It is, like I said, we'll get into another episode of it because it's the whole 24-hour period, and then obviously all the years since, how it has affected all of our lives.
Yeah. Okay. So then next is me, Katherine.
Well, this is important.
What? Oh. Oh, no, it is important because it's me. Yeah. So I'm, first daughter. And I am married. My husband is Eric. And, this will be interesting. Okay. So husband, Eric, and then I have 2 kids. My daughter, Sarah, and then our son, Adam. So Eric, oh goodness. Okay. So Eric is, he's not an only child, but he has some step siblings.
He has the vibe of one.
He was basically raised as an only child for a long time and has a very good close relationship with his mom. And that's pretty much it. So,
so he kind of opted into an unknown circumstance by marrying you.
This is, I will say, we've been married 20 plus years, and he still, it's hard for him to get up the energy and psyching himself up for all of these family gatherings, because there are a lot of, because we're all kind of close, the ones who are here except for James.
And during normal time, with all the birthdays and all the holidays, it's more than, we might average twice a month. But, sometimes certain months there's not something, but it's a lot. There can be a ton of gatherings.
Yeah. And then on top of it, we decided that we needed to have, this was pre-pandemic, we instituted a first Sunday of the month dinner. So on top of all of the birthdays and holidays, there was also, and they weren't obligatory. You didn't have to go, but, mostly I did. But yeah, I was just going to say that Eric.
But not always with Eric.
But almost never with Eric, actually. I realized that it's very different to just naturally be part of a big family. And I don't even really consider myself a terribly social person, because outside of the family, I don't really I have friends, but I'm not super active and social. I keep up with people, but I don't do a whole lot. I feel like, I'm working and I'm writing and I'm doing other stuff. And I don't know, whatever. I'm busy enough. I got enough people and things.
I'm very similar. Part of my theory on that is, it is just from being in this big family, and not even counting all the now kids, but just the 8 of us. Whether you're not calling them every day or anything, but it's we already have this social network that's already taking a lot of that space.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel
and it's been there for your whole life. You've never not had a whole group of people to hang out with.
Yeah. So I definitely feel like that fills a lot of my social network time that I need.
Well, I will say, can we just go back to 1 second to Eric? Because I remember when you first started to date him and it was getting serious, and you brought him to some large family
he was
events.
alarmed.
Alarmed. He was mute. He could not get a word. He was stunned. He would just sit there at this table of 20 plus people, all cross talking, overlapping, and we weren't fighting. Just the energy is very up, and
yeah, we're a lot cleaner
it's
on the
still
podcast.
like that.
That's for sure.
Oh my God. So he would just sit there sort of shell shock looking, and yes, you could tell it was physically taking a toll on him to be there and be engaged. And I was like, whoa, Katherine picked this kind of wallflower in a way.
It's funny because I don't feel like he's really like that with me. He's very fun and lighthearted and easygoing, and we have a very fun relationship, and I enjoy him so much. He's very funny.
He's better in small groups than one-on-one.
I would say that too.
Well, and again, something I can be somewhat similar at a large group gathering. Why am I trying to fight to get words in? I don't care. I will say something whenever I want to say something, or I've thought of this multiple times. I've never actually tried to keep track, but I feel like there's been parties or part of the dinner where no, I said 0 from beginning to end, and that was totally fine with me. I felt engaged. I just happened to not say anything. So I think that's definitely something Eric.
Well, you passed the potatoes or something, right?
I feel like that's something that Eric, doesn't, that's not a negative mark.
Right. No, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's just, I realized for sure when we started this podcast, I'm like, oh, Eric's not going to want to do this. I mean, this is very ridiculous because in this scenario, I'm going to be Dolly Parton, but it reminds me of Dolly Parton's husband.
Like Norm's wife. We're just to reference him.
I'm just going to be like, I'm not going to force him or cajole him or whatever. And I just know that he's not super comfortable. So I'm just going to be like, okay, I have gotten clearance that I can talk about him, that he exists and is, I can, but the likelihood that he will come in and chime in about anything, real low. I mean, just like, I don't think that is going to happen. But yeah, so he definitely is still fighting the shell shock of being part of this ginormous family. And I think he mostly sometimes forgets that I am actually part of this big family because he'll be like, whose birthday? Why do you even have to go? What? I'm like, don't you see them enough? I'm like, oh God. I'm like, no, of course I'm going.
But you guys have kind of, I think, come to a good place where if he does come, he might leave early with Adam, and you can talk about Adam in just a moment.
We definitely started a couple years ago, just 2 cars.
Yeah, just 2 cars. And
or like I will pre-plan, like I'm going to have a glass of wine. So I will get John ahead of time to be like, can you bring me home? Great. Okay. So then Eric can leave whenever he is starting to feel like this is too much. I got to go.
Yep. Yeah, so I feel like you guys have kind of worked out that dynamic, so it's not as a pressure situation for you. It's like,
I don't ever want him to feel like,
None of us would want that either. Yeah, so there are moments very much in Irish exit you realize, like, oh, where did Eric go? Oh, he's gone.
Eric is gone. Yeah. Which is, I think is appropriate and fine because I want him to enjoy the time that he's there.
Right.
And, whatever. I was getting a smirk from John.
No, sorry. I'm smirking about something else. And I'm not the correction police. Well, was it? And look, how sensitive is this any longer? Was it a French exit or an Irish goodbye?
Oh my God. I love when I do that, John. Don't correct me when I'm completely fuck up too. So what I do?
You married them. You married the French and the Irish, just like our history. It's fine. It's fine. We've got it all jangled and mangled and tangled.
A French or an Irish goodbye. Or no, sorry. See, I can't even get it wrong. It's so me and her. I either am like so on that I can't get off where she is, or she gets me off and then I can't. But it was an Irish exit. So that's how it was.
But it's
wrong.
An Irish goodbye is the actual.
Which would be like if Katherine immediately exited after him. Like, wait. That's really close to each other.
Okay, yes. All right. Not shockingly, when we get to me, like that is a Liz trait, and I just roll with it. So thank you, John.
Just in case anybody has never, because I hadn't heard of this expression, the Irish exit. Wait, no, is it Irish goodbye?
See, this is the problem, because then other people can't.
I infect people with
Irish goodbye.
The Irish goodbye is when you don't say anything and you just slip out.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, that is an Eric move for sure.
Yeah.
And sometimes I will be like, well, Eric, go say goodbye. He's like, no one wants to say goodbye to me. I'm like, also.
We do, but it will tax him.
It will tax him.
Too much time.
He doesn't.
But it's also ridiculous. Making a point to go say goodbye to each person is crazy town. Walk out. If you say goodbye to some people on the way, sounds good.
Oh, see.
Well, it makes sense that you think that way, and so does Eric.
Yeah, Eric and I are good friends. He did, in some ways, take up right where all of you were as, my elder siblings as like, yeah, let's go get food. Or like, how about you help me with this project? Okay, sounds good. As a, 10, 12, well, more like a 14-year-old or whatever. So I've been, he's been a great guy to me, and we've been friends now as adults for a long time. So we could speak about this for sure, and shockingly aren't that different. There was a wedding we had to go to for someone from work because we worked together, and we fully pulled. It was like, all right, I don't know that they've cut the cake, but I think it's time to go, and we're just gonna walk
before
out.
The cake? Have I taught you nothing?
But it's kind of a smart move because if you make a big deal out of leaving, then they notice that you left. If you don't make a big deal, then they have no idea when you left.
I notice those things.
I just want Eric to know that however much we all just talked about him and love him very much, when we eventually get to the point where he's going to see our movies in the theater, he is going to notice a character that just disappeared from that fucking scene. Where the fuck did that character go? Mm-hmm. We love you.
Okay, so anyway, that was a long thing on Eric. Okay, so probably not going to get Eric in here to do much of any of this, but that's fine with me. So he's very supportive of me. but not in the gonna show up here way. So then our daughter Sarah has also made it clear, yeah, she's not going to be.
What? My goddaughter.
She's so funny. She is so smart and
Yeah,
witty.
we may need to work on that one.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if we can convince her, but that will be a tough pull. So
We may need some audience requests for that episode.
well, we'll see. She may not be swayed, and sometimes
This is true.
she is a little bit very much like Eric. She's more of an introvert. She has a very low need for social interaction. She's very happy with not a lot of interaction. She does pretty well at family functions. She's very good friends with one of her cousins and really enjoys hanging out with Teresa, one of James's daughters, at things, and lately has become even more open to going to things and just being like, I'll hang out in the kitchen and help do whatever. Okay, great. But I feel like it'll be unlikely for her to come in. But we'll see. And then Adam is our grown man boy who has autism. So he really not able to talk very well or express himself. He has very limited, and we call it unreliable language. So he won't be in, but I'm hoping that I can get Eric and Sarah in to talk about being in a family with a child with autism. I hate saying child because he's really like a grown up now, but
I know it is
he's
crazy.
bigger than you. So.
it is funny because he does a lot of errands with me. He's very easygoing. So I'll just be like, Adam, you want to go to Trader Joe's or you want to go to Target? Yes. And get a lot of caveman responses. And then, it's so funny because I feel like I'm this little lady and then I've got this like grown man who's like holding my hand and like he's very sweet.
It's very disappointing that he can't express how awesome it feels to have gotten taller than you. Because it was a great day in my life. I got to tell you, I'm sure he loved it too. I was like, this
meaning
is
like
awesome.
when you were taller than mom.
Yeah.
You were like, look at this. I mean, he does.
It happened.
He's very sweet. So, yeah, I'm hoping that I will get the two of them in and we will just talk about what that experience has been like. So.
Yeah, because it is pretty amazing because the stats on families with an autistic child are staggering in the sense of divorce and, the challenges that they face. And you guys have been an incredible, inspiring family of how you've handled it all for all of us. Yeah.
Weirdly, I think it made us closer and gave us something to sort of all rally around. And, we're all very similarly on the same page about helping Adam, taking care of Adam and being a good support system for him. And that made our whole thing more positive in general. I don't know. And we all really like each other as a family. So that worked out nicely.
That's very nice. Yeah.
Okay. So that's me. Woo, that was too much on me. Okay. So if you did.
Quick family tree. We're going real quick.
God.
Well, some people aren't here. So those will go quicker because they can't
True.
chime in with
Very,
like
very true.
extensive explanation stories like I just did. Okay. So then Liz, you're next.
I'm number 4, Liz, Elizabeth. And it's interesting because mom will reference the fact, because at that point she had 2 boys and 2 girls, that everybody thought she'd be done because
That seems like enough.
that seems like perfect. You have both sexes and they have
So you're
siblings.
saying after you, there shouldn't be anyone else. You
Absolutely
should have
not.
been
Yes.
Well, James
little
often
princess.
says like after him. He's like, why did you have more after me?
After James.
One.
I mean,
I don't know. You gotta change your perspective on that. I think you've gotten a lot of collaborators in the back half that you don't have on the front half. So I think you should be really
for me,
appreciative.
it was a blessing because the older siblings were
back four.
not into number 4 at all, whereas I dominated the bottom 4.
You did.
So-
There was kind of a break at you. Like I kind of ended up being more of a solo act because the 2 boys were together and I was weirdly not interested in
having a sister.
I was like, I don't know what you younger children are doing. I need to do my own thing. Goodbye.
Pretty much.
So yeah, you definitely were able to like bond downwards in the younger.
Bond downwards. Yeah.
I don't know if that's a real.
I like that
Phrase.
Bond downward.
I meant an age. I don't know.
And maturity level quite often too, because I was up to no good most of my childhood. I was the shenaniganers. So if there was a shortcut, if there was something that we could be up to,
Yeah,
I did it.
You were the worst conspirator I mean, I love you for it, but man, that did not set me up for the expectations I had. I'm like, where's my conspirators? Who's going to sign my things with mom's signature to get away from not doing my homework?
Oh, yeah. I mean, things had to be taken care of.
Yeah, there's a lot of stories about this. I did not experience this. I just got to experience like, okay, now you've matured a little bit, you're in college or whatever, and you're going to take me to get ice cream. Fine.
Yes, I was the nice big sister. I'd pick you up places, take you places, and...
Well, I mean, you weren't
treats?
the only one, but you were definitely,
the primary one.
Yeah.
Well, if you say so.
No, I don't know about that, but I also was the first one that had a car that was very willing to drive sibling places. The previous family members, not brothers and sisters, not so much. So I, once again, number 4 in the family lineup, and I am married to what was not my childhood sweetheart, but I've known him since childhood because he was in Rosemary, our younger sister's kindergarten class. And Mark, my husband.
And basically a neighbor.
Yeah, and his sister Dee Dee were our neighbors, lived 3 doors down. And they went to public school, we went to private school. But summer, because even though we would go to summer camp, it wasn't like we went away to summer camp for a month or 2. Our summer days were like, after breakfast, get out and don't come back till dinner, basically.
Fill the day. Go up on the hill. Get away from
all of it.
Yeah. Get away from the house.
So a lot of my childhood was spent with Mark, my husband, and his sister Dee Dee, who's really like a cousin, practically. You know, she's my sister-in-law, really like a sister to me, but to the rest of you, almost a cousin. So all my siblings have pretty much known my husband their entire lives as well. And I have one son, Ethan, who is 13, now that's 13's official teenager. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And he is now taller than me, Ed, which is crazy.
What?
And neither one of them are shy. We have a lot of socialization and
yeah, they're going to come in and do podcasts, right?
For sure. I think Ethan's coming in this week.
And probably can't wait.
Yeah. So,
what? A microphone? Pay attention to me? Go for it.
Oh, Lord help us all.
We have to edit out some songs, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. So I'm trying to keep it quick at this point for me.
Yeah, mine was too long. I'm sorry.
All good. Actually, I'll branch into Rosie,
Yeah,
our next sister. We're almost Irish twins. We've talked about this on a previous podcast. Rosie and I are very close in age, and she is my best friend. And she now lives about 1.5 minutes away from me.
Hilarious.
And she has 2 boys, one in college, one in high school. Jack is the one in college, and Luke is the one in high school. And her husband, Kirk, who in so many ways reminds me, well, not in so many ways, but there are similarities to our dad. I mean, he is an actor, but, also they flip homes. He's a developer, which is incredible.
It's a coffee drinker.
Yeah. No, but just a sort of sense of his humor. And another little credit we should mention about Kirk Fogg is, he was the original host of Legends of the Hidden Temple, which was very impressive to you, John, right?
Yes. I mean, shockingly, I was the one who answered the door to him.
Did you faint?
Well, let me tell the story. For one of their first dates, not recognizing him, though. I remember that moment, but I did not realize who it was. So then way later down the line, they're already super dating, whatever the heck is happening. I guess she's now living with him or something. So I'm staying there overnight as whatever. I don't know. Send your child to go hang out with your other children.
You need a dog sit Misty.
Nope. I was in high school. About in high school. So whatever. I'm staying the night, and I notice on his bookshelf in his office where I'm sleeping, there's this coffee mug that's Legends of the Hidden Temple. I'm like, that's Legends of the Hidden Temple. I totally watched that show. Why? So I asked him, and he's like, "Oh, that's me." And I was like, wait a minute. So yeah, totally did not realize, had to be told by him. I mean, it's crazy because I can totally remember watching the show. So I totally have that.
And he used his real name in it. So
yeah.
Kirk Fogg.
Yeah. So I think that was, unfortunately, even as a Hollywood child in the Valley, did not put the credits together. I'm sorry. And Kirk has made some of his own movies, which are super fun.
Yep.
Yeah.
They host a lot of family events like I do as well. So their home is like sort of a hub for family gatherings. And it's crazy to think they're going to be like empty nesters pretty soon.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty close.
Yeah. And Rosie's been on our podcast before.
Yeah, Rosie's
and will
been
continue
on.
to be. Yeah.
And I think Luke is already going to record one.
He's scheduled to record Luke, yes.
Ooh.
And I get the vibe that Jack would be fine with coming in and doing, you know.
And Jack, it's interesting because you look at these 2 boys and Jack looks like a Killmond, our side, and Luke looks like his father's side.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, my kids look so much like Eric. It is ridiculous. They don't even look like me at all, which is like
Not really.
It's
That's
weird
true,
when
yeah.
you see genetics like do that, and you're like, oh, okay.
Whereas my son Ethan is kind of ebbed in and out. And now it's like, I'm not exactly sure. I think he still leans a little more to like Dee Dee, my husband's side of the family looking like. But my personality, he is very much my personality.
Yeah, he's very similar
And
to you.
one aspect that's awful is he's a night owl. And I'm like, go to bed. I want to watch my own shit. But at the same time, enjoy his company. So all of a sudden I'll look over and I'm like, you're still up. You're still here. Get it. Go to bed. Yeah.
The next sister down is Ginny, who has also been on. She did for the Sisters podcast, and she's game for sure to come in and do. She's already done 3.
Yeah.
So she did
known as Gigi, Ginny, Virginia.
Gigi. She does like to go by Gigi, which happened a little bit later.
I don't think we get to acknowledge that. I think
Why?
we can.
What?
Well, I want to not call her Gigi. That's why.
I stumble on it only because it is a not our generation. It's a
grandmother.
It's the no. Well, wait a minute. Wait. No, Gigi is. I think, was it Jack or Luke? It was a nephew. That's who called her Gigi.
Yeah. Well, look, it's interesting. Ginny was definitely sort of, as all of you started to have kids. It was because it was before her own kids. She started the kind of nickname train for the kid or this next generation.
Did she start with Aunt Gigi? Was that?
I think so.
Oh.
And we're saying maybe from Jack and Luke.
Yeah.
Then she's definitely continued it with her own kids and like, no, everybody has got to have a nickname and cannot so for now it's her Gigi. It's like, well, do they? Didn't you already have a name? Why do we need this?
Because I've never really gone by Elizabeth in the family. My girlfriend Heather will say when we were kids, she knew I was in trouble. My mom would go, Elizabeth. But otherwise it was Liz, not even really Lizzie, but Liz. I have some in my life, Lizzie. I have one girlfriend that calls me Killmond still. I mean, so it can be convoluting. I tried to be Auntie Lizzie to especially James's daughters because I was like Auntie Mame, but I don't think it took. So I'm still trying. But my son calls me. This is actually a funny anecdote about my son Ethan. He basically calls my husband and I by our first names. And I do not know why. I mean, Liz and Mark.
It's pretty much good for his personality, though. It's like a good fit for his personality.
I mean, shockingly, as the solo child. But I think it's one of those things you don't realize. It's so much based on what you call each other. Which, yes, it sounds weird to call, your spouse, hey, dad. Well, it's not your dad. It's your child's dad. But I think that's totally what it is. So he's seeing you call each other Mark and Liz all the time. So he's like, well, that's what I call you.
And we socialize with him enough that he'd be out in our world with people calling us Liz and Mark. So very early on, the mom dropped. It's so bizarre. Like when he does call me mom, I'm like, oh,
that's so sweet.
And Virginia was very annoyed with that at first. She's like, why is he calling you by your first name? I'm like, well, it is my name. So I'm not going to make a big deal out of it. I mean, I'm not going to be like, call me mother. But now because we love RuPaul Drag Race, we will say, call me mother.
Oh my God, that's so funny. Okay, so Ginny is married to Brian.
Ooh, I just wanted to interject. She's been on all of the podcasts at this point.
Oh yeah.
Ginny.
Yeah, not just that she was on 3 of them, like she repeated on Family DynamiKs. No, she's hit all the podcasts that we do. So she's
the
basically a
different podcasts.
co-star.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yes. So not all the Family DynamiKs, but on other podcasts that we do. Yes.
Wait, did she do What We're Watching?
Yes,
for the Patreon.
Yes.
Oh my God.
So the only thing she hasn't hit is the Patreon for Family DynamiKs. But I'm sure it's coming.
Yeah, she should do. Well, she did do, Family DynamiKs. So I don't know. I guess it counts in that category.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
Glad,
All right.
Glad I could be not correct.
Well, so as the baby sister out of the 4 sisters, she's married to Brian.
And then they have 2 daughters, Morgan and Lauren. And there's a little bit of an age gap, I think.
Whatever. There's like 3 years or so.
Yeah.
And I'll be interested to see if, because I don't know the vibe of whether or not Brian and the girls will want to come in and talk about stuff or not. We'll see how that plays out.
But one of the aspects you just alluded to, something like grandparents or Virginia is she's a stepmom as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And her stepson Tim has had a child. So Virginia is the first grandmother,
Yes.
grandparent out of all of us. My younger, that was one of the things we did have to river about when we found out Tim was pregnant. We're like, so you're gonna be a grandmother like before?
Well, that's
me?
the real Gigi connection there. Like
Yeah.
that
Well,
she actually.
Yeah, it's what makes it true for the rest of the world, but it was what she made that her nickname.
I think
I stand by this.
Yeah, Ginny is, when she has a goal, she's gonna make it happen. So
If I was Tim's kid, I'd be coming in with Gam Gam.
Gam.
Oh
Yeah.
Lord! Well, said she refused to be a Grammy. She didn't want to be a grandma. She wanted to be a nana because she was kind of young when this was all happening.
Well, and it's funny because
Grand Gin?
oh no, that's grand.
well, it's funny because we do have like specific names for our mom as a grandmother. She goes by Grand Mary,
And she created that, I'm pretty sure.
I think it existed in like I want to say an American Girl doll book or something.
What?
It's definitely out there.
It's
in
out
the
there.
world.
It-
Okay, so
It
Grand
happens.
Mary is
And then we do Grand Jan for Mark's mom.
Yeah, my husband's mom. And that was classic Rosie dry delivery. When I announced I was getting pregnant, it was like, well, what are we going to call Jan as a grandmother? And she's Southern, so I'm sure there was some other choice she wanted. But Rosie goes Grand Jan.
Oh, geez.
So it's stuck forever.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see. Definitely, we've gotten Ginny in, and we'll see what the rest of her family thinks
Yep.
about coming in and doing podcasts. So that's her husband, Brian, and her daughters, Morgan and Lauren. And Lauren, they're younger.
She is in grade school. Yeah.
All right.
We're getting
so
Girl Scout cookies. That's what the age there.
That's a good
the
barometer. Okay, Ed, you're up because you're next.
I'm Ed. I'm not married. I don't have kids. What else do you need to know?
That was pretty quick.
Perfect. Great.
Wait, are you going to do some podcasts, Ed? Are you going to come in?
We do podcasts.
Oh, okay, just checking.
And I've been on all of them except the Patreon for
And
which
just
one
like
did
that.
I miss? I missed one.
Oh,
of
we've
them.
had some sister ones, so you haven't been. Although we did like to dress you up as one of our sisters, known as Edwina.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. Appreciate it. I'll be talking about that later with my therapist.
Traumatizing.
Yeah.
Traumatizing. That's mom's
Just
fault.
more-
That is mom's fault
That-
for
it was
having
her
some,
hair. It was
for
her hair.
having some old box of like sort of costumes, but no, was it called like a hair piece? It was almost like a flop, or like there's a term for it technically where pre-extensions. Everybody, there would be a piece of hair you'd add to like be able to do like a bun. And
Yeah,
we would just find things in closets and make things
fall,
work.
maybe?
A fall. What did I say? A flap?
a flop? I just want to say.
Depends on the quality of the hair, I think.
I mean, I think
It was a flop then.
definitely Ed and John, you can speak about this more at another time. You suffered from the 4 older sisters being bossy mom position people. So like even if it was a play thing, you were not really in a position to say no about most anything.
No,
Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah, you just kind of anyway.
Well, I don't know. John was very contrary as a child.
Well, that is true, which is different as an adult, I guess. But anyway, as sisters, yes, I think Ed definitely got a lot of that because he was close enough. With that little bit of distance, it was a slightly different experience. Sisters, but not like all over
there's
you.
there's a difference between getting dressed up as Edwina and being gifted cowboy boots and a vest, and then just leaning into that and being a badass at 4. Yeah, I didn't get those options, John. Slightly different.
It's true. That's that was the benefit of being much younger.
Oh, it was fun dressing him up, but let's give him cowboy boots and see how that works out.
and then he
This is
kicks
great.
everybody in the shins is what John
I don't
did.
know why he's doing that. That's not what they're for.
I mean, look, it is, that's the whole strange thing about multiple kids, siblings, whatever, whatever your behaviors end up being or how you place yourself in the family. And, right, I guess, whatever that, little angstiness, that was part of it for me somehow, I guess. And is definitely... That had to change, right? You can't be kicking people forever. So,
No,
then
probably
they make
not.
you kick the tree and then you stop kicking things, I guess.
Well, mom
Well,
definitely.
no, then you start running.
Well, then you start running.
Sure, later. So definitely, whatever. It works itself out in different ways. But yeah, whatever. There was definitely, some temporariness for sure as a younger person myself, that is.
Well, I was going to say, Mom likes to talk about how you would get very upset when everybody would go to school. Like when you were really little and all of a sudden it went from like high activity, everybody's home and there's a lot going on. And then everybody went to school and you were like, this sucks. Everybody's gone. And like just, you would get very moody.
Well, we're awesome. I can understand that.
I mean, I definitely, you want to be around us all the time. We're great. No.
That's why we're doing these podcasts.
Oh, God.
So that you can have some time with us, John.
But
Yeah.
John, you
You're
didn't
welcome.
officially. So Ed, were you wrapped up with your very short, concise description of yourself?
Yes, after you discussed how you wrapped me up in women's clothes. That was a wrap.
Okay. So then, John, why don't you officially go?
I'm me. I'm number 8, and that's it.
Wow. Okay.
You're the best.
Okay.
How? That is not what I said.
Okay, so that is the 8 siblings, the 8 Killmond siblings. But then we anticipate that we will also bring on cousins, which we'll discuss.
I've heard from a few.
Yeah, who are interested. So we have cousins on our mom's side, and then we have some cousins on our dad's side as well.
Yep.
So kind of, we'll expand that out in the future as we go along. So, wow, that was
Did we clarify anything?
I hope so.
So let me just break it down. The in-studio guests will be our mother, our oldest brother, John, Katherine.
You nailed it right there.
Oldest brother John.
Oh, my God. Oh, okay.
Just do the family. Just do all the family names. She's too busy laughing.
Oldest
to
brother
continue.
James, our brother William, who is passed.
I was already saying it.
then me, Katherine. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Liz.
Then our sister Rosemary, who's been on the Sisters episode.
Yeah.
Then our sister Virginia, who was also on the Sisters episode, and on Huge Fans, and on What We're Watching.
See, I just think we need to use the name Mom, James, Katherine, Liz, Rosemary, Virginia, Eddie, and John.
Okay, great. That was very well done.
So that is strictly the immediate family who is still around and probably going to be on the podcast.
Wait, and that, of course, is who is in that picture that we took. And basically, Dad said we took a whole bunch of pictures of us looking, normal and trying to smile. And he had woken us up to do it super early.
gosh,
and it
of
was
course.
like, okay, everybody do something funny. And that's what happened. So
I mean, that picture
Well,
you can
is
almost go
that
in
what
height order.
happened?
Well, Ed invented dabbing in it, is one of our
Apparently.
nieces said.
okay. All right. So we're going to say that that's good for now. That's a lot of information to just get it straight who the 8 siblings are.
Yeah, maybe we'll break this down on our basically our website.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
We should make a family tree. We'll build it out as we go along, but at least we'll start with that.
Who's who?
Who's who and who's,
And our website is,
knackentertainment.com.
and you'll be able to find everything about Family Dynamics on our website.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so I'm going to say please subscribe to our podcast and definitely comment and review.
And like,
And you can follow us on all of our socials. And we have
Definitely
a Patreon.
check out our Patreon,
Yeah,
yep.
we have a Patreon. And that is Family DynamiKs with a K. And that's it.
Thanks for listening.